Hi, this is an abridged version of the Empire LRP Senate Q&A stream. We had a few technical problems during the stream, mainly around audio. I've done my best to edit around them, but sorry in advance. Due to the technical problems, there were a few things we missed. We weren't able to get to all the questions raised by the stream chat, so we'll be doing a follow-up Q&A soon. There'll be details in the description about how to be notified when they happen. Also, I completely forgot to thank the wonderful photographers whose photos show off our guests and the wonderful world of Empire that we play in. Beth Donner does the background photo, and the counter portraits were done by Oliver Facey and Steph Morris. All the details are in the description. Thank you so much for your time, and hope you enjoy the Q&A. Welcome to the Empire LRP Senate Q&A. This is going to be a nice hour or so chat with some lovely senators and some lovely other guests to talk about the Senate game within Empire LRP. A few quick disclaimers. This is a player-run stream. Profound Decisions who run Empire LRP aren't involved, so we will get things wrong. And if in doubt, check out the wiki or drop an email to PD. But if not, just enjoy the stream. I am Martin. I play Travel Longest Path, who's this side. I'm one of the proxies who spend most of his time running after our lovely guests to make sure they're fed, watered, and happy. And I've been playing Empire for about 2 years. So let's go and meet the actual people you're here for. Say hi, guys.
Hi.
Right. And Sam, do you mind introducing yourself for us?
Yeah, sure, I'll kick off. So, hi, I'm Sam Bradley. I play Giuseppe Sanguineo, and I'm Senator for Temeshwar. I've been LARPing since the early mid-2000s, I guess, but I've been playing Empire for, I think, 2 years now.
I'm Natalie. I play Naseta Constanta, who you should be able to see next to me. I play Senator Sarvos. I'll pass straight on. You guys will hear plenty about that throughout the rest of the stream.
Hi, my name is Amy Woodhead. I play Elodie Harper, who is the Speaker of the Senate. I am an NPC member of the Games crew, who is kind of your referee / coat hook for running the Senate sessions.
Hi, I'm David. I play Riziot Dancewalker, Senator for Hasinia in Navarre. I've been playing Empire since ages back, year 2. But yeah, fantastic. It's great to have everybody joining us. And over to Amy, I guess.
The Master of the Mint in a big red wig. Empire is actually the first game I've played, but I ran a bunch of games, including helped run Odyssey, PD's previous slightly smaller game before this.
Hello. I am very sad to inform you that Faraz has not gained a new senator. My name's Ruth. I play Kiara, and I'm the former senator for Faraz. I've been doing Empire since the beginning, so I remember that hideous winter where my toothpaste froze. And I'm looking forward to all of the questions.
Grayson, I play Beaumont Rondell, who's the Dominus Senator for Astolat. The picture's been popping up alongside me, and it's, like me, usually very blue. I'm quite distinctive, I think, in the field for that, even in spite of the mud. Playing Empire since the start, again, Dawn all the way through, and Senator for Astolat for most of that time. For that, Maelstrom, a whole variety of other different games, and probably the gist of it is I've been LARPing for about 20 years now, I think, roughly. Thanks for joining us.
Amy, would you like a run through about how Senate works, just so chat know what we're on about?
Yes, hi everyone. Here is your rundown generally of what Senate's like. So, I play a Speaker of the Senate. What that means is I'm the NPC who runs the Senate sessions as sort of your John Burko in fancy dress. The speakers are NPC impartial and neutral characters who run the admin side of the game. So we do the paperwork so that none of the players really get bogged down in that. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm sure a lot of players love the paperwork side of the game, but yeah, so I'm the one who does all the paperwork for the Senate motions. I gather them and bring all the bits to be presented at Senate. All of your Senate motions, the ideas and the new things that senators want to either build or do or enact, they all go before Constitutional Court, which is the OC, that's the game's design team, to check that all the motions can be implemented in the game. Those motions are brought to Senate sessions for all of the senators to vote on. There are 4 Senate sessions at every summit. There's 1 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, and 1 on Sunday. The speakers set the order of business that is presented during each session. So we'll generally go through things like the announcements, elections, the motions, things like civilian commission, which are if you want to build something, if somebody wants to request historical research into some old lore of the Empire world, or if they want to ask the Senate for money, which is what most of these senators here are very well known for. But yeah, the procedure of a Senate session is that I open the Senate session on the floor. I will present the motion in the wording that the senators have written. I will read it out. I will turn the floor over to the person who's brought that motion forward and get to talk and grandstand about that motion and what they want to do. They get to explain why they're doing it, try to convince the senators why they should vote for it. We also, as speakers, we make sure that the moderation of conversations, or not conversations as they're had, we want to make sure that it doesn't get bogged down in a debate. They just want a few questions and then get on to voting, because otherwise it get as long as conclave. We do the administration of the voting, so whether the motion has passed, whether the motion has failed, and that's done. We then keep all the sacred paperwork ready so that it can go onto the wiki afterwards. How did I do? And is that generally okay?
Don't think you missed anything.
So the first question I've got for you guys is, if I can find the darn thing, is what interests you in the politics game? We take time off each of our busy work to run around the field, and you go to politics. What interests you about it?
I'm happy to start if that's okay. So, what interested me about the politics is it's really unique in a LARP game to have a way of sort of like changing the way the LARP game is played, even if in a small way throughout. So Senate's really cool for that. I quite like the whole sort of like getting up, grandstanding side of things, and it just seems sort of like a really, really fun part of the game for me. No idea why I went for it. My character concept was supposed to be a duelist, and I ended up as a politician, but it's just sort of fell into it and have had fun ever since.
I can go from the start. I think probably it's a reasonable shout as well, on the grounds that when we started, it was very different than it is now. When we started, the Senate was still quite in its infancy, in the sense that most of the politicians know what we're doing, the vast majority of the staff didn't know what we're doing, and the game team weren't 100% certain what they were trying to do either. And it's evolved steadily over that time. But I think the fundamental principles haven't changed, which is that probably what's mattered about it was that you had a capacity to affect the game world, either from the personal plot that came out through Winds of Fortune or Winds of War, and also things that you could self-generate yourself. What I think makes the Senate unique in all the different games I've played for is that you can also create the plot. You decide you want to do something with your relevant nation, or with your territory, and you do something new and fresh. I'm not sure of a game out there that otherwise provides that level of ability to innovate.
I particularly love it because of all of the people you get to interact with. I think Empire is very much a game of lots of different types of games, and Senate is the one that it is very important who you're talking to, and that doesn't mean you have to know them beforehand. It means you have to have a willingness to talk to them, and that sort of level of people skills and persuading people to my point of view or his point of view, I really enjoy.
The reason I really took an interest in the politics game, and again, much like Sam didn't really kind of aim to do it from the outset, was a chance to interact with a lot more players and have an opportunity to really kind of take things forward, take ideas forward, and run with some really great concepts that someone comes up to you and goes, hey, why don't we build this thing? And you're like, yeah, that sounds really cool, let's do it. Even though all the consequences will inevitably catch up with you later, things about Senate is you interact with both the imperial system, but also your own nation. But you also have to interact with lots of different parts of the game at once. So you get your money from, your materials from, where you're getting it from, is your nation going to like it? What's the military view on that? Or, what's the international view on it? What's the diplomacy on it? It's really exciting in that respect.
Just to echo Sam a bit, the ability to make changes in the world is not unique to Senate, but it's a really good place to start if you're interested in that sort of thing. I run some games and find the way the games are put together really, really interesting. So Senate's great for that. But I think my favourite thing is it's a game of plate spinning. And I do this a lot in my real life. Why on earth I want to do it in a field is beside me. But it's keeping all the balls in the air at the same time. And I love that game. I love that sort of trying to keep everything balanced. It's very good fun. If you're into that sort of thing. If you're not, it's still very good fun.
Doing this in real life, why would you want to do it? There's a surprising amount of overlap between what statistical analysis and write public. Actually, a lot of satisfaction from it being very, very work life. But every so often, I'm like, oh well, really, I should write this out rigorously in with what I want it to say. Oh no, wait, no, I have to. I can just wait for someone else to find those bits. I don't have to have any. Someone annoys me. I should be polite and professional. Or nice. This is a much better option. Like there's a real, getting out the frustrations of having to do that sort of civil service, a scientific job by instead being awful.
Echo Amy's point there. It's like as a servant in real life myself, there's something very, very satisfying about writing briefings when what you're writing about is building a navy rather than just sort of like some little procedural policy thing. It's just so much cooler.
On the Empire field have a civil service-esque jobs, because there seem to be quite a lot of us.
So, quick question. So, we touched on it already. What does a normal event look like for you guys? Because you've all got different approaches.
At the hub, 5, 10, half hour before, almost raring to go to get their game started. But no, mine starts at the beginning of time in. And I, as a civil servant, I go basically into it, which usually about 10, sometimes to 11 o'clock. After Senate's done, I have the evening to go find a nice campfire to sit around, and then the next day I'm in a meeting at 9 o'clock, and then right at the start of time in at 10, it's a full day again from almost 10 to 10. So it's a very busy day to keep the Senate game going for all these senators.
A typical event for a senator tends to be busy, very busy. Even if you've not hit the field with an idea of what motion you want to carry that season, there will be people knocking down your door or tent door or trying to find you to try and get you present their motion. So a typical sort of event for me is normally just people finding me at all times of the day and trying to convince me to do what they want me to do whilst I'm trying to do what I want to do. and then raise funds for that, trying to work out if there are any constitutional issues, if there are any military issues, and then asking all the relevant people. When I get asked in Senate, I already know the answers. And just trying to convince people of what it is that I'm going to in Senate, because one of the things I always say is if you don't know how yours is going to go before you've hit the floor, you've already failed.
I'm not a senator, so I don't have a motion. I have what's Senate. So I have to spend, if I'm done, I spend all my time running after, limping usually at this point, these guys, trying to convince them to give up their one precious motion, the thing that's probably, pursued like electing a new ambassador, but fun really do because it's not as cool as the other things you can do. Convince someone that, just this once, you want to do the administrative, needs funding, and so forth. And that's usually my first. So at some point after the first hour, and hopefully before the start, I get the accounts of the Empire, which is like now a serious wodge of paper with everything we've done since Britta died in terms of costing, projected costings going forward, like how much our policy is affecting our trade, breakdowns by each territory of how much tax is coming in, how much tax is going out, all the stuff that Senate spends its money on. And I process that so that then when I stand up in front of Senate at 10 o'clock, I can tell them, how much money they've got for the event. And on top of that, how much of that they should probably spend versus save for the future, because Senate has a very uneven income. We have 3 really chunky money seasons, and then where we have nothing and we have to save for it. That's basically my first evening. And then today it's all about tracking down the bourse holders in the bourse auction on the afternoon and checking that there's not a massive inflation going on, because the senators need to know that. Checking that the auction hasn't gone wrong and we've got no money left, so that I can let senators know again on the Saturday, okay, this is how much money we think we're going to have next season. Now let's adjust our spending accordingly and spend all the money! Which is why Saturday tends to be the cash goes out, because on Friday night it's like, caution, it can all go wrong. Today it's like, who cares about the future? Blow it all on armies and, I don't know, pollies, shops. Yeah,
we need more
the Imperial office. Yeah, I'm running the Imperial office, trying to match-make up senators in the sense of the motion, and this one has a second, and I need, that motion needs. Let's convince him to give the second. But if he wants that second, he wants that the other person pass. So they need to find, her motion that she needs to pass, but we need something else done first to match up as much as possible so that everyone they want through, or at least not in front of people.
Requirements of the job in terms of finding motions, finding or wanting to decide what they're going to do with the motion, trying to figure out how to fund it, who they need to talk to, trying to secure votes. And then I think the really interesting bit happens, which is how the individual character decides what to do at that point. Why do they care about the motion? Do they care? Are they a military-focused senator? Are they economics-focused senator? Are they playing to their nation? Are they imperial? Are they nation first before imperial? That's where it starts to get really interesting. So though the procedure each of us have to follow, and Amy is very much the speaker on this, is the expert, and obviously other Amy is also master of the mint and knows all the finances. But for me, it's very much kind of around what's your take on being a senator, and what do you care about, and therefore why were you elected to do that? And I think that's the really interesting bit that happens for me is kind of every event I play in, a lot of my characters' interest is around kind of what do we do as a nation versus what's the imperial interest, and that's kind of where things can get really quite interesting and quite not competitive. I guess it's more conflict, and Empire is inherently a degree of about settling and resolving conflict. It's why should my motion be funded from the imperial treasury compared to Ness's? Why does the League take primacy over Wintermark? All those kind of questions are really what is for me at the heart of Senate, and that's what makes it really a fun and exciting game.
Anyone else want to throw in?
Yeah, I'll go.
Sorry, I just have it. got a habit of ignoring Beaumont. It just runs in the blood.
Bad habit to get into.
Yeah.
Broadly, I think one of the things that many of the colleagues have kind of touched on so far, but haven't said explicitly, for being a senator, it starts before you even hit the field. Most of us review the Winds of Fortune, the Winds of War. We look through all the different kind of published materials that come out and almost build a hit list of things that we feel we need to care about. That comes with its own kind of list of people you want to talk to. So nearly one of the big drives or one of the big kind of goals behind Empire and the interaction is that you will be using all of those different issues to go and find someone who's an expert and try and get more information. As a senator, you touch on just about every aspect of the game, but there's too much coming at you too often. And you very rarely, if ever, become a specialist per se in one specific field. It does happen, but it generally takes a fair bit of time, which means if something comes up that you're having to allocate a limited number of build slots or a limited amount of funds or any other kind of aspect, you broadly need to speak to someone who knows that subject field inside and out, and then ask them so that they can try and inform your opinion better. Ideally, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 different people in that specific area so that you know that when you're going forward to, you've done the best research you can. Again, Imperial Offices helps with that. So being a senator for me starts out, as I say, with a hit list of things that I want to hit right from the start on Friday. Good chance, even if it's my motion, I won't be bringing it to the floor until Saturday because that gives me the time to research the area and find out about it. And then I'll be trying to fit that around battling or monstering on the Saturday morning. I'll be trying to fit it around talking around all the senators that are my closer allies. And I'll also be trying to fit it around trying to answer all those questions with other senators, their help on raising a motion or putting it forward. Another aspect of PD plot that I think we all understand is there's usually a sting in the tail. So for me, part of the issue is not necessarily what the motion says or what the plot says, but what I think the ramifications are going to be 6 months or a year down the line and how it's going to come back to bite us. So you're almost trying to forecast what you think is coming next. And I think most of us senators, the difference between a good senator and a bad senator or a successful one is that you've looked into all those issues, and sometimes what seems to be the best opportunity on the surface, you can almost spot the hook before he gets to the floor of the Senate and dodge that bullet. That's me mostly.
One question that's come up is how are the senators chosen in your nations? We won't cover all of them, but from a roleplay point of view, which method do you think is the best one?
I feel like we shouldn't answer that question.
Yeah. Yeah. Dawn's one's quite easy. It's the election of all of the different nobles in a specific territory, one noble, one vote.
I can. The Brass Coast, I love the way we choose our senators. It is ridiculously honest. You bid for it, and you bid, and basically the winning bid wins. So it's how much you value the seat, really, in the end, and who's bidding against you. That doesn't mean that you're not, doing deals on the side to try and convince your people who want to bid up to bid down in return for motions or. Just to give you an idea, some seats in the coast have been won for upwards of sort of up to 80 thrones a seat, and some have gone for a few crowns. There is a story on the field that one of our best senators won their seat for a ring, but you'll have to find that out on the field.
I actually miss the old method of the Brass Coast. By the person who came in second place used to get a massive. And so there were loads of families who were aiming for the massive payout, get it wrong, and unfortunately win a Senate seat. And there'd be lots of, no. How do we... Awkward.
Yes.
David?
So Navarre, it's probably the easiest in terms of nation mechanics in that it's a straight up vote. If you have a business, if you have whatever your starting resource is, if it's in the territory where that senator stands and the election starts at that season, you can vote, and it's quite simple. And so Navarre simply has any candidates who wish to be in Senate, they give a short speech, and then effectively, if you own a resource behind your preferred candidate. So in some ways, it's probably the easiest. That doesn't necessarily mean that all the normal behavior of every Senate election, or indeed in most elections in the Empire, doesn't happen, which is people lobbying for votes beforehand, before the election happens, people trading, offering resources, bribes, all that kind of stuff happens before the elections really start to happen as well. And it's really quite interesting sometimes how people can give some fantastic speeches and not win, or give an awful speech and then win, or indeed or suddenly you think the preferred candidate who's going to win suddenly loses, and that's again really interesting as well. So I think Navarre in some ways has probably the easiest system, but that doesn't necessarily reflect the hidden mechanics behind it.
I've got another question here from chat. For the people who've been playing politics for a while, how much has it changed since you first started?
So I mean, I can say in the time I've been there, I think the loss of the throne, which was Elizabetha, has had a really interesting effect on Senate in the last couple of seasons. The mechanics between Senate and the throne is really exciting as well. When Elizabetha was on the throne, and that was quite, again, interesting to see the role of throne versus individual senators, or senators versus individual the imperial offices, or kind of how they all work together was really interesting. And I'd also think the role and interest of Senate, I think, has grown in the last 2 years I've been in Senate. There's far more interest in certainly Navarre about how the Senate works and how it operates and stuff it can do than there was 2 years ago.
It's become slightly more restricted. It's become more elaborate in the things that we can do with our motions, and what we create has become much more bigger game effects, much wide. The blood red roads, for example, which maybe is a better thing for you to explain in terms of the economics and them scattered throughout the empire, which in the early days there weren't such things as great works. And also it's become much more, well, there's more territories now than there were before, which means there's more senators to work with. There's also more positions that stand in the floor of the Senate. So you have Mistress of the Mint, you have the Imperial Magus, you have the High Consul, you have the Advisor for Orc Affairs. These are all parties that are involved in the Senate themselves, but are not senators, which means you have a wider body of opinions and people who can speak. Even if they don't vote, they still have an input to add. It's also become, I want to say, clearer an awful lot of the time on what we can do with our motions and how things proceed. So I think there's much more on the wiki, like sinecures are more closely defined, great works, the creation of armies, how all of these things work. So I think now with a bit more research, a senator can understand the underpinning fabric of the world much more effectively. That's me.
Thank you. Ruth?
To say more recently, like perhaps even in just the sort of the last year and a half or so, Senate itself has become more dynamic and more changing. So before there was always, a sort of set number of senators, there were their territories, they always got elected. Now it sort of feels more like everything's up for grabs. It feels like people are sort of flexing their muscles in their nations a bit more. More people are getting involved in politics or in world plot and trying to make actual changes. So even some really secure senators have lost their seats because they've not listened to their nations, or because their nations have essentially rebelled and gone against them. So I think it is more interesting now to be a senator than it was at the beginning.
Yeah. Ruth, the point that you made about more people getting involved in politics is exactly right. But it's not just people getting involved in the Senate game. It's sort of people outside of Senate. Like the Liberty Pact was something that was driven almost entirely by people outside of the Senate game. It was just sort of people like coming up with an idea, making an argument, and sort of managing to get people on side. There was a question in chat that was sort of a little while ago from someone, I can't remember who, it was like, I'll get to it when everything stops being on fire. And it's just about doing what was done with the Liberty Pact, putting the legwork in. Or alternately, getting your senator unelected and putting yourself in there, because that's a really good way to see your agenda furthered. Furthermore, the Jews must be destroyed.
Another example, you mentioned Liberty Pact from a smaller example, is the city of Seren within Navarre was purely driven by a couple of the players who made that their character matters. And that did not involve senators until the very last moment. That was purely driven by the players. As much as we like to believe so, is with Senate, well, from my view, is Senate are driven by players. So players don't come with their plot, if you like. well, I'll be sat there doing spreadsheets.
I think there's a huge.
There's a huge
Oh,
pause.
lost him.
in what Gray
He's
is about
gone.
to say.
attention.
And so much of that has come from him.
There was a huge innuendo in the
Huge
room.
problem with lists.
Are we back?
Yeah, Gray, you said there was a huge, and then it stopped.
Tell me when we're back. Then
You're back.
I was just
Look.
right. Okay. One of the people I want to think is Dave Weatherall. He plays Lorenzo of the Butcher's Bank. He has probably built.
But he was Master of the Mint.
Can't tell if that's me or all of us.
So, do you mind repeating what you just said, Sam? Because I think I've got a bit confused.
So, Gray, you said Dave has probably built, and then it stopped again. I assumed you were going to say built
Sorry.
more than any other player.
Yeah, I think so, probably. And he's a player. He's never been a senator. The closest he's got is he held Master of the Mint position. But he was obviously someone who had a plan and knew how to lobby. And I think he's a good example for other players in the sense that when he decided he wanted to do a thing, he just talked to every senator that would listen until he got what he wanted. It's a good engagement strategy.
I mean, what he also has is a huge amount of money, which helps.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, if you come to a senator with your proposal and you've done the legwork, you've discovered, all of the things you need to know, you've discovered if it's doable, you've got the funds behind it, more often than not, the senator will say, well, yes, or if not yes, not me, but I know someone else who has a motion that would probably put that forward. So it's just, you don't have to be a senator to lobby politics or to get something through Senate.
Yeah. I mean, I've got this motion sitting on my desk right now that it is not my idea. I'm putting it through for someone else.
I think over time as well, you tend to get senators being specialists in various areas, or they become known for them in certain things. And that tends to mean that you get a lot of pitches from people to ask whether something's feasible or can be done. And that in itself is a kind of further point for you to kind of almost signpost other people and move them along the route, whether it be introduce them to generals or other kind of aspects. So a senator has a role, or a large chunk of the role that involves helping other people get where they want to go, even if you can't do it yourself.
Amy?
There's definitely an aspect to which some senators very created a niche for themselves, often repetitive, self-funded, economic, great works and Drew's destroying, and having or hammering home and home and home about a deficit of fiction universe, where you tiny niche that you realize no one else has noticed that this is a problem or that this is an opportunity, and if you go spend long enough shouting about it to enough people, get enough people behind you, you can suddenly just shifting shifting it in line with you. Like some examples of the Liberty Pact was a great one on that, where an absolutely speck of a, do you think PD do this idea to the entire Senate applause, with masses, all the moving pieces that were behind those scenes to the place where they could just go, yeah, sure, why not? Was huge, and it was really wonderful to watch that.
So I think we'll get distracted by the pub.
The Liberty Pact's a fantastic example. Sorry to bang on about it. It's a fantastic example because it's got PD to fundamentally change some of the mechanics of the game. Like that whole thing brought in trade embargoes and preferential trade agreements and freedom.
I got an extra spreadsheet.
Navies were the same.
Extra spreadsheet because of that.
Navies are the same. That was player action driving something that wasn't otherwise in the game. It involved the evolution of the mechanics. It involved the evolution of the mechanics of how they'd work, how you'd build them, what they'd use, where they'd need to be done, and everything thereafter. So I suppose one thing that I'm probably trying to highlight from this, and it's been kind of said before, everything in the game, or nearly anything, has the ability to be moved or shifted or new things added, as long as you approach it in the right kind of fashion and the legwork in.
there's one area of the game where you mentioned about players getting engaged in the plot of the Senate side of things. One way of that is by taking part as witnesses in motions. Is that right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work?
I said I had something to say on this when we did the pre-meeting, so I don't know if it's worth me talking here. But yeah, expert witnesses is fantastic. It has where we can bring in someone to talk on our behalf about something that we have absolutely no idea about. And it's a really, really useful way to get some extra knowledge in there. It just requires careful handling by the senator in question, because if you don't brief your expert witness on how Senate works, it can all go very, very badly wrong. Couple of examples. So Senate has a very call and response, formal process. Someone on the floor will ask a question, and then either the expert witness or the senator can give an answer, and then that's it. And if your expert witness says something like, "Can you repeat that?" That is the response to that question, and you have to move on. Or if, for example, you have an expert witness who thinks Senate might work a little bit like conclave and then realizes it doesn't, you can end up embarrassing them in front of everyone, and it's not a fun thing to do. And I have daggers coming my way, I'm sure.
Love it when you get an expert witness who, like you say, you've not briefed and you've possibly just called on off the floor because you need one, and it turns out they actually disagree with your motion entirely, and you've just sort of stabbed yourself in the back by bringing them onto the floor.
Yeah, John had a great...
And it has happened a number of times.
Harry playing John had a great line, which was, you may now treat your witness as hostile after Dan Brackenson got dragged in to talk on a military matter, gone off on a, no, this is a terrible idea, it's not very effective, and I'm really... I was like, oh, should have checked last.
I think there's another aspect to choosing. I think there's another aspect to choosing an expert witness. The truth's in the title. Choose someone with some credibility in their subject matter. So if you're bringing in someone to talk about something that relates to the conclave, and you're taking someone who talks in the conclave regularly, is seen there all the time, has a presence of their own, then that in itself will add weight to your statement. If you choose someone who's entirely fresh and entirely unknown, they may be experts in their subject matter, but there is an element of better someone with knowledge or weight or experience and a very short pitch than someone who can talk at great length. No one knows who they are to a certain degree.
Amy?
Yeah, I'd add to that. That goes with what you're talking about. You brought something up about Asavea. Haven't brought the ambassador to Asavea. One of the first questions, why isn't the ambassador to Asavea here? What do they think that you don't want them saying to us? And so there is definitely a sort of thing of, if there's a title that is associated with this thing, not going to use them as expert witness, you better have a good reason why someone else.
And be ready for that question.
Yes, good point.
And what about for people who are the expert witnesses? Have you got any advice or guidance for the people who are taking part from the witness point of view?
Yes.
Amy nailed it. Can we get the camera on Amy, please?
Do you elaborate a little bit about that, Amy?
If we have sound now,
Yes,
the best thing that an expert witness can be on the field is know what you want to say, think about what the senators are going to ask you, and think of how to say that in as few words as possible. We don't like commas on the Senate floor. If you can explain something quickly in as few words as possible, you're not going to catch the going to catch the hearts of everybody you're trying to convince. So some of the best expert witnesses have come in, and in the first sentence or two have explained all the information that the Senate needs to make that decision in a heartbeat. And it's like, yeah, okay, cool, let's move to voting. And I sit there going, but what about questions? And be like, no, we're ready to vote. Nope, they were that good. So that's the best thing to do to prepare for that role.
I mean,
Hi guys, sorry about that. Few tech problems, but I believe Sam was picking up a question about how to deal with anxiety in Senate.
no, not me.
Oh,
Amy.
sorry. Who would like to lead with that?
Yeah, Speaker of the Senate.
Speaker,
Amy.
Amy?
Oh, well.
Sorry, yes, I was just having a momentary fluster because somebody said flower crowns, and I'm wondering whether the one person that maybe heard was me. But anyways, right, if we were asking, how do people deal with, I guess, the anxiety of public speaking? Do you ever feel nervous? Let's start by me, who's up there in front of everybody trying to corral about 40 people and a viewing gallery. I am terrified of Senate. I really am. I am not a very confident public speaker. I never have been. It took me a lot of time and a lot of practice to be familiar with the formality and the procedure of it, enough that I could blag my way through running a Senate session. I mean, I am immensely fortuitous to have Harry Harold, who plays John of Mead, as my co-speaker, who is an astounding man. He must have been doing LARP before I was born, I would imagine. But having a buddy there to do something nervous, to have somebody at your back who was like, no, you got this, has been incredible. And it just becomes, you just have to practice at it a little bit here, a little bit there. After a while, it doesn't seem as scary, or it does feel scary, but you can, you push it down, and then the Senate ends, and you'd be like, okay, and now with shaking hands, I'm going to go to the bar. Or another coping mechanism. Usually it's sit down with a friend and be like, oh, that was a pretty loaded thing, but we got through it. Yeah, it will take time if you're not confident at public speaking, but it's still doable. And most of the other players are also very cognizant that they get nervous too, and they will do what they can to help you. Sometimes just ask for help.
Natalie?
Hi everyone, sorry that I've been a little bit quiet during this stream. I've had some tech problems of my own, so thank you very much to everyone who's still tuned in. Something that so I get properly the horrible, what I would describe as stage fright. I do the full range from sort of edges of the vision going blurry to feeling like I am going to throw up, which I almost did once on our egregore. He has forgiven me, but it wasn't my proudest moment. If you do really struggle with shyness, with anxiety, with stage fright, with this whole range of things that can make public speaking really difficult, my best advice, well, is twofold. Is firstly, to find whatever works for you. Because Amy's advice is probably the best you're ever going to get, is that time and getting used to it is desperately helpful. But there is only ever going to be a solution that works for you that you can find. For me, if I have to do it in character, I usually rely on the fact that I am in character. I find that really wildly helpful for me, because whilst I may have horrible stage fright, Nasetta definitely does not. And also, I'm quite lucky because I play in the league, so I get to use the mask half magic, and I actually find that little bit of barrier just between me and my audience is really helpful. I have a certain series of sort of nervous tics that I go through, so I do this with my hands, which just I find helps to calm me down. You will have whatever works for you, and I really recommend finding what it is, because It doesn't need to be a barrier to this part of the game. Speaking on the Senate floor is probably the smallest bit of what you do as a senator, and it does not, feeling anxious or nervous doing that should not stop you from getting involved in this part of the game if you want to get involved in it.
So just to reiterate what sort of Nat and Amy have said is do find what works for you. But just to give you some examples of what works for me, I'm a massive proponent of warming senators up to what it is I'm going to be talking about before I hit the floor. So I already know what their opinions are, so I'm expecting the questions that I imagine will come from that. It's also really useful to warm up some senatorial allies on the floor to ask you some nice questions. So if you've missed, something you really wanted to mention when talking about your motion, they can prompt you by asking you about it, and you'll be like, oh, that's a very good question. Why don't I elaborate? Which is really, really useful.
So yeah, the point I was making, if anyone in chat has any sort of anxiety over what they're going to say,
Sam, I don't think they can.
Well, some can. Yes.
Yes,
we have Sam.
Go for it. Go for it. Ignore the chat.
Yeah, I script what my opening statements are, because that really, really helps me to warm up to speaking in front of a crowd. If I've got that sort of bit of paper in my reckoning book that has what I'm going to say, it means that all of the sort of initial jitters are gone by the time I get to the end of it. That's all I wanted to say. All of that for this. Buy my stuff.
And where can people find said stuff, Sam?
Oh, in the league, obviously. Or I believe at the Navarre bar, I think is the...
Oh yeah, of course. All the best bars in Navarre. So what advice have you got for people who are interested in engaging with the Senate game? What's your top tip? Natalie?
Cool. I was slightly prepped for this question, so I'm very happy to take point on this one. My best advice for playing the Senate game is play your game first. The Senate game, it is very, very easy to get bogged down in what I will call efficiency and in doing the right thing, or more precisely in doing the correct thing. The Senate game is only a game because people play it with their characters. And your character could have 1,000 reasons to want to be in Senate, and they don't all have to mean being the best senator you can out of character be. So my best advice for being part of the Senate game is to play your game first. I would generally, if your game is being really, really good and really efficient, by all means go ahead. I'm really glad there are quite a lot of people in Senate doing that. But yeah, don't sacrifice your fun for the politics of an imaginary world.
I mean, Empire as a whole is best played suboptimally anyway.
Why make good decisions when you can make interesting ones?
No, why make good decisions when you can make profound decisions?
Hey, I see what you did there. Very well done.
Oh, hang on. And insert the cheeky plug into the chat as well. It's almost as if you had it all planned out. Amy, sorry.
Firstly, do it. Find your senator to talk to. Follow them around. Follow their proxy around. Any of that. It's just Don't not do it because you're afraid or you don't know something or you're worried about something. Just dive in feet first.
Doing whatever we want to it. I think one of the things I had most fun with at Empire was, again, I'm going to go back to the Liberty Pact, because I'd had people worried coming up to me going, oh, no, you can't talk against this. We know the economics is going to be in the trash, but you definitely can't bring this down. And I'm sort of sitting there going, oh, I know what's going to be fun. I'm going to make them all think that I'm going to say bad things about it. And then I'm going to go, yes, we do it! Because, and go for the, populist cheer glory of ending slavery. And, we didn't really need economics, right? It was nice while it lasted, but... and that was really fun. because I'd not been planning to speak against it. I'm not sure why everyone had decided I was going to speak against it, but it was very fun confounding expectations. And it has been glorious to watch how much it has trashed our finances.
Anyone else got any advice for new players or players interested in the game?
I think we're good.
No?
Yeah, I think I've
I've
got
got
something
Senator of
to hear.
Temeshwar, everyone else does.
So this
One of the points.
just to
One of
sign
the-
off, as we've almost out of time, I'm just going to ask a very important question, a slightly personal question. How important and awesome are proxies?
Very.
Go on, Natalie.
Like massively
So-
important.
Yeah, I mean, so I literally cannot. And please, if everybody is already online, do tune in to the chat that's going on after this, because it is with the proxies, and I guarantee it will probably be more interesting than this one. I don't know how many people on this were proxies before they were senators. I got to be a proxy to Magdalena, who is played by Mel, who was fantastic, and she actually gave me one of the best opportunities by getting to be her proxy. My favourite phrase is that proxies have to be a good senator and a good proxy. And I'm real sorry I have to apologise at this point very publicly to Sam, who plays Giuseppe, because I got the best proxy in the game by stealing his. And well, it's sort of an apology, but it's not really, because thank you very much to Jason, who plays my proxy, who will be on the chat afterwards, so you should all go and tune into that. But yes, proxies are fantastic. Also, they're a great way of getting into the game if you want to be able to sort of have a bit of a feel around for it.
Ruth.
I could not do as much as I do without my proxy. They are literally a lifesaver at times. And I would say that for any senator, to be a good senator has at least an amazing proxy and probably a team of more than that behind them, because you just can't do it alone.
Sam?
And just, to echo some of the other points, proxies are absolutely amazing and they do so much for you. If I've got any advice for anyone looking to become a proxy, I can't give you any advice on how to get selected as proxy, because that will vary from senator to senator. But once you become a proxy, don't be afraid to push your own agenda, because it's so much cooler to have a sort of knife at your back than it is to have a lapdog. From a sort of gameplay perspective, that's one of the reasons I love Jason so much as my proxy, was because he wasn't afraid to call me out on my bull. Can we swear on this stream?
You can just stop at bull.
Yeah, to call me out on my bull and to sort of and to push his own thing. I got so much more done.
Yeah, actually, are you sure you don't want him back?
Do you hate him?
No, I
want a good
now.
Temeshwari proxy. I want a good Temeshwari proxy. That's what I want.
I'll get you one. Reaper Day present, promise.
Thanks.
And if
People engage in
Gray, we're just answering the question of how valuable is a good proxy.
Yeah, I think your proxy has to do everything and the kitchen sink before 6 p.m., then again before 7 p.m. They better look unhurried, well-groomed, well-turned out. I've talked to all the senators. I've gone to the hub and back 4 times, and yes, it's a very difficult job. If you do it right, a senator and their proxy are very much a partnership. Particularly in the nation, if you both take the field, then you're almost covering each other's back, because there's a reasonable chance one of you is going to get croaked at one point, and then you need someone who can essentially step up straight into their plate and take over from you, hopefully, ideally, as seamlessly as possible.
And
my own proxy is going to be on next, where he plays Edric, and he will probably tell you horror stories about how mean I am to him.
They're all true.
Yes.
I've heard them all. He moans to me all the time. And if anyone's interested in taking part in becoming a proxy, what's the best way of doing that?
Well, I mean, the best way right
honestly
now
ask.
is to watch the stream.
I think the public perception in many ways about being a proxy is that it's difficult, or the senators want to keep you at arm's length or otherwise. Broadly, senators are usually too busy, too stretched, trying to do too many things at too many times. So having one proxy or several proxies or a team of Senate kind of staff is desperately important. So most senators will take your arm off and welcome you into the door if you're eager and keen and willing to help.
Yep.
Okay. And Natalie?
Completely agree.
Completely agree with Gray. If you are interested in the proxy position, then we appear to possibly be frozen for some people. No, not frozen for everyone. That's fine. I'll stop worrying then. So it's a sort of two-pronged piece of advice. If you are interested in going for any sort of proxy position, have a chat with your senator. Like Grace says, we will 9 times out of 10 take your arm off. It is where part of my most favourite part of the entire PD game design comes in that basically virtue says so. If you are interested in the politics game, then your senators absolutely should be helping you out and raising you up. If they're not, you can get them inquisitored. We have a guy for that. If you want to especially be an exceptional proxy, then one of the things to maybe look at is who you are proxying for and how you guys balance out. Because like Gray says, you will be a partnership, and I have the proxy I have because he's good at all the stuff I'm bad at. And I'm good at all the stuff he's bad at, and together we make one complete senator, because you can't be good at everything.
I reject that. I'm good at everything.
Oh, I like that. I like that question. What's the speaker's thoughts on proxies?
Go
on. Yep. So hand on heart, I cannot remember at times who some senators are. You'll see me on the Senate floor going, "Who are you again?" And usually that's because like I haven't actually got a chance to interact with that senator. Proxies have this weird nebulous. They're not a step below. I know quite a few proxies, but they can change from event to event, and it's not official. You could nominate 5 proxies. You shouldn't, but like theoretically one could. And like have your own information gatherers. But until a proxy comes and presents themselves on the Senate floor, it's entirely up to the players to identify, are you the senator? Are you the proxy for Senator X? Oh, well, if you're not, I'm going to challenge that and see what happens. But yeah, I would love to tell both the proxies and the senators, this is what the speaker says, you can't be everywhere at once, so share out the game and then have those conversations. I was over here and I found out X. Oh, I did this bit, of the legwork, and let's put it together. Send more proxies to Senate and give them the opportunity to experience the game and see what it's actually like on the Senate floor, not just from the viewing gallery. The senators can be in the viewing gallery. But let's see how my proxy does.
You should be many times.
I totally do that.
There's so many opportunities to share what is a quite restricted game with as many people as you want. And I hope I haven't gotten myself in trouble by saying that, but we can hope.
Natalie?
This is only really a very, very quick apology to Amy, and I don't know what Sam is going to say, but if it does make you feel any better, we did at one point manage to have the same person go in, I believe it was Saturday morning as proxy Temeshvar, and on Sunday morning he came in as proxy Sarvos. So it's not just you. Yep. We do deliberately confuse you.
Yep, though that happens, and I hate it, and I feel like, is my memory that bad, or am I just that stressed and tired?
We just trade them around to mess with you.
They're like just favors in Dawn, Toss them up here and there.
I'll take your word for it. Don't.
So I've started in the Imperial offices keeping track of people who mention to me that they're looking for more proxies or that they're looking for a proxy, so that when people come in and say, "Oh, I really want to get involved in X bit of the game," I can say, "Oh, why don't you go talk to what?" I'm helping people get, find their way into places where they can get closer to bits of the game. I don't know. People very rarely come back and tell me.
On the point of proxies and or other stuff, I think probably a question to the audience more than anything specifically now for us lot is, do you lobby your senator? And if not, why not?
Yeah,
because one of the things
do.
I find is, engage with your senators. If you want something done, go and ask them. If you have a drive, a thing to get achieved, otherwise, go and harass them.
But
arguably, they to a degree represent you where they should be.
Yeah, I mean, one of the benefits of Dawn is if your senator's not listening to you, you can just call them into the glory square, right?
Yes. It's one of the best bits.
Whereas the advantage of the Brass Coast, if your senator's not listening to you, you can bribe them until they do listen.
Exactly. Nearly everything has an engagement mechanism designed to kind of allow you to push senators in a given direction. And I think the more people who engage with it, the more fluid the game gets, the more interesting it gets, and the more you get out of your experience as a player. Same with every lever in the game. If you grab the handle and pull, you'll probably find the game more interesting for you.
Thanks so much for your time today, guys. I really appreciate it. Sorry for the tech support, tech issues. I think you've got a point about that.
We were blaming either the Grendel or the Druge, but probably the Druge.
I think we're blaming the Druge. Sam, do you want to blame the Druge?
I thought we were signing off.
Let's blame Dawn. I'm up for that one. Yeah, definitely Dawn.
Sorry, Sam. Go on. The key line.
Let's end it on a high. So yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for listening. And furthermore, the Druge must be destroyed.
See you on that. And the proxy thing will be at 9 o'clock. Hopefully, that thing's broken. Thanks so much for your time, guys.
Thank you. Bye.